1011 Estimates Bill Committee stage continued.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Appropriation 2010-11 Estimates Bill.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chairman.
The House in committee for further consideration of the Appropriation 2010-11 Estimates Bill. When the committee was last considering the bill, the question before the committee was that vote education stand part. Tuara Flavel has the call if he wishes to continue. No other member seeking...
Mr. Speaker. I'll seek to agree.
Is some member seeking the call? Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, ngā mihi nui kia koutou kia ora. Having been a student at university last year, I've been pretty interested in the big changes we've seen in the sector since this government has been in government. And what we've seen essentially is the government making it less accessible, more expensive, and in some rights downright impossible to even be a student in New Zealand. Today I thought I'd grade the Minister of Education. He comes across as a very effective minister. He's spoken about in sort of hushed terms, in awe. But actually, when you look at his record, and if you grade what he's done in this sector, I think we'd give our minister something below an A, probably below a B, probably even below a C. I think the minister would get an F. I think he's been a failure as a minister for tertiary education. Right now, if you want to study at Victoria, Otago, Waikato, Massey or Auckland, the chances are you might not even get to be enrolled, even if you've got a good grade, even if you want to...
Point of order, Ross Robertson.
103 about the use of the word you. The member, I know he's a new member here, so
order.
Make exceptions,
Yep.
But it's this way he actually
order.
learns.
Order. The member doesn't have to qualify the age or the time a member's been here. And the member will be walking, or whoever said that, I don't need any assistance. The member simply raises a point of order. The point of order was a valid one. The member ought to be a bit more careful about the use of some pronouns. Gareth Hughes.
Right, point of order, Mr.
Point of order, Ross Robertson.
Mr. Chairman, you're a very experienced chair, and you'll be aware that during your time and addressing my point of order that there was an interjection, and people should know, especially long-serving members, that there's to be no interjections whatsoever during the taking of a point of order, and it came from that side of the House, sir.
Yes, and I caution the member that if there's one more infringement like that, someone will be taking an early shower. Gareth Hughes.
I apologise, Mr. Chair, I wouldn't give you an F. Mr. Chair, we're seeing our universities close their enrolments, in some case Massey University, with only 30 minutes notice. I was at Waikato University this morning. This year they've turned away 403 students, many of them school leavers, many of them anticipating being able to study at university, many of them wanting to get educated, wanting to contribute to the economy. Why are we doing this? Well, it's not because of well thought out policy. It's not because there are more well-paid jobs out there that are attracting all the potential students. It's because of simply a lack of funds. It's because the Tertiary Education Minister wouldn't get any more funds for the sector. Like Richardson, like Douglas in the 80s and 90s, what this minister has done has used the chaos of the crisis, the recession, to ram through possibly the most fundamental changes to the tertiary education sector. No longer are we the open, egalitarian system which Kiwis are proud of. Rather, what we're seeing is a more closed system. I think in this area, the minister would have to get an F. Mr. Chair, in Budget 2010, the tertiary education budget was $4.2 billion, the same as last year. So when you look at inflation, essentially the last budget was a cut. When you compare to Australia, who we're trying to catch up to, they're investing $5.7 billion extra over the next 5 years. Compared to the OECD, we are ranked 18th out of 30 for the proportion of our population with a tertiary degree at 27. Australia, they're aiming for 40%. How are we going to catch Australia if we're putting less funds into it? In fact, we spend $3,000 less per student than the OECD average, and we're in the bottom quarter as a percentage of GDP. Throughout the budget, we've seen all these kites floated throughout the year, and some of the measures were announced in the budget. We saw a few additional places, not enough to cater for all the students that want to get more skilled, want to get more educated. I think in this, the minister would possibly get a C, maybe a B. It's good that we've got a few more students there, but not enough. The Minister reduced the fee maximum, making it more expensive for certain courses. I reckon this gets a D for dumb. You know why? Because we have a doctor shortage. What this is going to do is make it more expensive for more doctors to be on our courses, bad for our economy, bad for our students, bad for our health. We've seen the Minister limit access to tertiary education based on performance. I thought this government was about incentivising people, not about regulation. Instead, what we're seeing in the tertiary education sector is punishments, more regulations. They could have gone down an incentivised path to promote performance. It also gets a D because what this is going to do is disadvantage minorities, those migrants without English as a first language. It's going to disadvantage those students from poor and disadvantaged backgrounds, and it's not smart for the economy. The Minister's also introduced a lifetime limit to access to student loans. No matter that we already have a lifetime limit to access to student allowances, which is already a good balance and check within the system, but what this Minister is doing is limiting those people that want to do a double degree, take a while, like the Minister, to get their zoology degree. It means it's very inflexible, very rigid, and again, I think we'd have to give it an F. We've also seen the Minister prevent access to Australians for accessing their student loans. I think the rest of the House might agree. This is possibly a B. It's not the worst thing in the package. We're seeing the introduction of a $50 student loan administration fee for the 560,000 Kiwis that have student loans. Of course, this has to get an F. Maybe it gets an F for failing, because what the Minister and what the Prime Minister would love to do is bring back interest on the student loans, but it's just so damn popular that we don't have interest on our student loans. This is going to increase the burden. The student loan debt nationally is $11 billion at the moment. We need to be reducing the benefit of the burden on students. This government gets an F for tertiary education.
Order. Honourable